What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today for Top 5 Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the top 5 heroes that I want to get an ML version, as well as talking about a little bit about the lore of what I kind of want their designs to be based on their RGB versions, what paths they could take in their lifetimes, and then of course talk a little bit about how I'd expect their kits to look like for those ML variants. So if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and Discord server, link down in the description. Without further ado, let's get right into it. I think motivation of this was a suggestion from one of you guys, so if you do have any suggestions, make sure to leave in the comments or in the Discord. But also because of ML Lilius, we are getting the announcement tomorrow, and I always like to see the alternative versions of different units, so that's what made me make this video. And ML Heroes do have a lot of different things that they actually do provide and give to the table. A lot of times they give us different storylines for what could have been for some of the units, or it gives us a view into what they were in the past, whether when they were younger or what's going to happen to them in the future. So I really do like the ML variants, and with the kids, for the most part, they either tend to keep the essence or take them to a direction that is really unique to the actual character and holds true to their nature. So overall, ML heroes do give a very good view, especially if you like the hero a lot, and that's a big reason why I added some of these. If there's one that I'd missed that you want to see in the list or wanted to see in the list, let me know in the comments and also tell me what you think about them. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First with the honorable mention, so you guys get an idea of the video. Honorable mention, the reason why he's an honorable mention is because he's already an ML version, but I'm going to be talking about Strasses. So as we know with the bosses, they don't have an RGB version. So why would I be talking about ML? Well, for this one, it'll be more of an alternative Strasse. But the reason I say this is that because in designer Lilibet's storyline, as well as Luluka's storyline, we actually do hear of an alternative Strasse, which is actually going to be the greatest designer Strasse. And I really think it would be cool if they could bring that to life as either an RGB hero or a free ML hero. There's not to put this as a honorable mention, because that's not going to happen. He's already an ML hero. We don't have precedence for that. But it'd be really cool knowing that out there is a great designer Strasse that just wants to come and could actually destroy all your teams. As far as kit, I'm not going to go into too detail for it, but because it's an honorable mention. But I would like to see something to do with the creation aspect of it. So maybe the S2 could be like undressing, right? So it'd be a strip. The S1 could hold true to Strasse's S3, where he's a one-shotter, and instead of being an AoE to the highest attack, it'd be cool to see him do this, but to the highest HP, to see him do this, but to the highest attack hero. He penetrates their defense, kind of like an executioner of squishy units. I think that'd be really cool. And again, not super crazy, because again, honorable mention, it's not most likely going to happen, so then put too much thought into it. But now at number 5, we have one that before we've made this video in the past, and he's been there in every single list, but that's going to be none other than ML Pavel. The reason why is because Pavel, there's actually a universe already where he could actually exist. As we know, Rylet and soon to be ML Lilius, that we are most likely getting tomorrow in the announcements and getting announced, live in a universe where the fight never happened with Ross. The Archdemon fight, they never had to intervene, right? And Lilius was actually able to become Empress, and Rylet actually helped her out, right? So we do have that alternative universe where that does occur. What I think would be really cool to see with Pavel is to actually see him, instead of being friends with Rylet and falling with Rylet, would be to actually see him be the ML version of what he is right now, kind of like a resistance Pavel, to the way where he actually counters Lilius and Rylet and is trying to stand up against them. That'd be really cool canonically, because it would be a fight. Instead of him and Violet being best friends, they would be the worst of enemies. So as far as to how I would like him to look, I still think Ranger would fit him really good. It'd be really cool to get a light Ranger. We do not have many of them, with Faithless Litica being the only 5-star light Ranger that we have. The other thing is that because he already has his wolves, it'd be really cool if he did keep the wolf motif, but instead maybe even switch to a lion motif, because again, it's the resistance, it's the light, it's supposed to be like trying to stop them. So it'd be really cool if he got the wolves became lions, and instead of this skill being a single target damage skill, I would like to see this be an AoE damage skill that had high hit chance, or a single target damage skill that high hit chance, similar to Sahak, but mainly to also counter Rylet, as it is canonically. That's to, again, a lot of the times you do keep the kids for a lot of the ML heroes, so there's a good chance that he would keep his ML Storm Bullet. It would be very cool to see this skill be some form of debuff, or it could be a skill that attacks and also buffs your allies to keep up with the resistance motif, without something to attack buff some allies, or maybe make him more defensive and give barrier and defense buff. or something of that nature. So an offensive, defensive skill. And of course, this one could probably stay the same as just a gunswing, and just anything would do. But again, it would be really cool to see him get an ammo variant and to really see those different paths go along. Now, at the number 4, we have a unit that, even though we don't see Season 1 heroes that often, she was actually part of Episode 3, and that is going to be none other than Bologna. And the way that this can go is 2 different ways. One way is if she was not part of our royal family, and she actually was part of kind of like a Thieves Guild, and she actually got to use her strength naturally since birth and actually had to use it to become kind of a fighter. It'd be really cool to actually see her become either a dark mage or a dark warrior, depending on what path that could go, if they do decide to go with that version where she's just really, really strong and powerful. And they could keep a lot of her AoE the same. They could make her an AoE DPS debuffer, almost kind of like a control type hero, where she controls them down with the wind magic, maybe give her some restricts, or maybe give her some seal passives with her AoE skills, and maybe make this S1 skill apply injury or something of that nature. You know, something to show like the oppressions and the shackles of oppression. On the other side, they could also go with another deck version that would be more maybe of the dark mage side, whereas if she never actually left with Saz and was forced to study and potentially marry Aether, right? Which is what originally was one of the bad endings to one of the side stories that they showed with the Roses May Bloom. This year be more restricted would be very sad for Bologna, and again, I still think the control motif would be really cool, but again, keeping these skills instead of being damaged, maybe going more on the control side and really locking down those restrict. Maybe instead of being wind magic, it could be like chain magic, where she pulls down chains and grabs them down. And it could be really cool to really show the motif and like her sadness. I think it'd be really interesting. Again, there's a chance that this won't happen. Although we have seen with Teneria that you can have multiple versions of a unit. So there is a chance still for Bologna to get an ammo version of herself. But again, it's less likely for that to happen. Now, number 3, we have a unit that if you guys have been around the channel a long time, you guys know I love this unit and I have to include him until he gets it, which we are pretty much confirmed at this point because in one of the statements they said that he was going to get it, but we have none other than Kron. And again, with this hero, there are 2 paths that he could take. One path would be the path where instead of him being an acolyte and actually fighting against Ross, he could be a heir himself and actually have worked with Ross in a previous world, which would add a lot more depth to his character because it'd be very interesting to see him as a past version of himself, maybe a version that Ross didn't get to meet, maybe in the first world of Epic 1, you know, since we're in the 7th world of Epic 7, that maybe he fought along with Ross and lost in one of the fights, and that's how he became an acolyte because he wanted to be the Undead King. So we could see him in a past version as Heir Kron. What would be really cool to see is also, instead of being like the king of the undead, being kind of like a resurrector, kind of something similar to like a Maid Chloe or Royale, where his S3 would be a revive, and the S1 could maybe be a damage skill that either stole buffs for his team or gave us buffs to the team. So kind of more of a support unit, and maybe even like a Soul Weaver would be pretty interesting as that aspect. The other part for him would be for him to keep his Thief typing and become the King Master Kron. As we know from the story, again, minor spoilers. If you haven't read the story, you may want to skip away. But in the story, as we find out, he actually doesn't die, but the Archdemon is basically defeated and Ilroyce actually pulls back. What would be interesting to see is an alternative world where Kron actually wins and gets a lot more of the power from the Archdemon and is actually there to fight stronger or like any resistance that is left. Or if he actually just got the power instead of Vildred getting the powers, how strong could Kron actually be, right? That would be really interesting to see like a Dark Demon Lord Kron, and they could double down on his damage and the fact that he races undead. And it'd be really cool to, again, instead of racing allies, maybe every time one of your allies dies, grant him parts of the stats or something like a siphoning, where as things die, he gets stronger, kind of like a King of Death. And then maybe he could have a really strong skill that maybe have something where he can take HP away from his allies and use a skill by using his allies' HP. Would really fit his theme and would be a really unique aspect to Kron. Really would like to see that. But now at the number 2, we have a unit that I honestly am surprised this unit has not gotten an ML yet, but there's going to be none other than Sermia. And again, I see 2 paths from the story as far as her design. One could be an alternative universe where she actually joins the Chaos Sect, or it could be a future thing where she actually ends up joining the Chaos Sect, kind of like a secret mission. What would be really cool to see there is for her to become a dark warrior and be kind of like this like gambly, like really give into her addiction of gambling and like start using maybe dark flames instead of fire flames with the chaos sect and like spreading chaos. What would be really interesting to see is for her to keep her identity as a one-shot type unit, for also giving the self barrier, but maybe instead of being a single target menace, she could be an AoE menace to where she gives attack buff to the highest attack ally, and the S3 is more of an AoE setup unit. So that way, instead of her being the one-shotter, you're allowing someone else to be the one-shotter, which could be really interesting if you could give Gab to an ally and then be able to follow up and set them up perfectly with an S3. I think that'd be very unique, and it would kind of change the aspect a little bit. I don't know. I think it'd be a really good time with Sermia. The other path would be if she actually took her job more seriously as a knight. Maybe if she in the future, if Viseria died or something, or she would actually have to be more responsible. And it'd be cool to see her become more of a light knight, become more serious, and care more about her allies, where she would refine her skills and actually get stronger. And there they could really double down on the single target DPS, and they could maybe do something similar to what Strauss and Sahak does, where maybe if she kills, she gets immunity off of killing, but still keeps her S3 damage. But maybe they could do this damage scale if they have more buffs. She does more damage penetration, right? So kind of like an anti-buffer, and just pierces through buffs and actually is able to, if she kills, she gets something off of it. I think that'd be pretty interesting, and it could be both of the paths that she could actually take story-wise. But now at the number one, the unit I want to see get the most SC is going to be none other than Valencia. We don't have a lot of episode 3 characters, and she technically came out a lot before episode 3 really came out. She has been around for quite some time, and it would be really cool to see her be a dark dragon. In this aspect, she could be either a knight or a warrior. Would most likely fit a dark dragon, where I think a dark knight dragon would be really, really awesome and would really make a lot of sense canonically. Spoilers, again, if you didn't know, Moore tried to actually convert her into the dark side, but Valencia actually resisted. What really cool is for her to actually have given in to that power and actually have become the dark knight that Mort wanted. It'd be really cool to either see her take another more adult form to show some maturity and to show some darkness about her, or to just double down more on dragonesque, similar to Fons the Sealer, where she has a lot of like that corruption attached to her. It'd be really cool to see Valencia look like that aspect if she had gone down that path. What would be really interesting is to actually get a Tama-like unit where she could change forms if she used this Mind's Eye. Maybe after a certain amount of turns, she procs Mind's Eye and changes her skills S3 to where her skills actually get extra effects. So maybe kind of like a ramp up unit where after 3 turns, they get enraged, and then she's able to her S1, you know, kind of how she's the follow-up trample. She gets that follow-up trample as well, and can get some more nasty effects on that trample effect, or make it AoE. The S3 right now that she has, it's something that strips and helps the allies. So I would like to see it be something that instead is a single target damage skill since she's out of control, or if it's AoE, be a massive roar that not only strips, but instead of buffing the allies, it debuffs the enemies, right? Because right now it's just a strip and gives defense buff. Maybe it would be cool to have a strip and apply some form of debuff, like maybe silence because everyone's so scared. You know, maybe that would fit her really, really uniquely, and I think she could be really, really awesome both story and design wise, which is one of the units I really want to see get an ML version. But that is going to be all I have for you guys today. Hope you all enjoyed this theory crafting and some of the storytelling aspects along with it. But that's all I got for you guys today, and I will see you next time. Peace.